the albums from skits to songs and concepts and things like that.
Absolutely.
I really believe in Redman, that Redman could pull this off as a director.
He got a good horror movie in him somewhere.
Or a comedy.
Yeah.
I mean,
Definitely
whatever, really.
comedies.
Because he's so visual. So, I don't put anything past that dude.
So
Is it hard for
Mathematics produced the whole album?
Yeah, he produced the whole thing. RZA came in as exec, because RZA has like this whole machine behind him now. So why wouldn't Math, incorporate all the mechanisms that RZA has at his disposal to make this album go further than what he could have did by himself?
I just read the Once Upon a Time in Shaolin book. That's how powerful the Wu-Tang logo is, by the way. Because I only read that book because the logo was on it. It's not a great book, but like the whole thing about y'all recorded the album and ended up selling it to Martin Shkreli, and you was very vocal against it.
Yeah, I didn't have, because this is what happens when the lines of communication are broken. All right, I didn't know anything about it. I just know that when I was approached about doing a few songs for a project, and I was paid for them, mind you, by Silver Rings, I did the songs not knowing exactly what he was going to do with them. Most of the time, dudes do that. You get a fee, you throw the songs out there. You don't know what they're going to do with them. Next thing you know, you're on a song with Tupac, Biggie, and they ain't even alive anymore, and all this extra stuff. Anyway, he put this album together, and by the time I found out anything about an auction or a piece of art or not letting the fans listen to it, I got it, and it's kind of twisted the way the information was given to me. And I reacted to that information being that I'm Wu-Tang. But I think my reaction was more out of not knowing and not being in the loop more than the album actually being sold the way it was.
You shouldn't be finding out with everybody else.
Yeah.
Did you hear the album? Did you hear the whole album?
No, I haven't heard it yet.
Really?
I only know the songs that I'm on. I could play them if y'all want. I'll play them right now.
Martin had them up on eBay. He was trying to resell them.
Yeah, but you know what? I heard that's not going too well. I don't wish any bad on anybody, especially jail, because jail is never a place to be for anyone. There's some dudes that need to be there, though. They deserve to be there. They should be in there. But, under the circumstances that he's in, hopefully, somebody will pick the album up, buy it, and you guys will be able to hear it. I ain't really pressed, honestly.
All right,
I hated the whole shenanigans and that, so I ain't even pressed to even hear anything.
Right. Now, let's talk about the Deuce. Right? Because that's what we're here for.
What it do?
I was going to ask before we do that, when you go on auditions, is it difficult for you being Method Man? Because people look at you as that.
It's hard. You walk in the room and that's what they see. It's hard to, shed those layers of Method Man even when you actually get the job and you're in front of the camera. People still see Method Man. But hopefully, they'll see my dedication to the art. They'll see that, I'm stepping outside of my comfort zone in some of these roles, and I'm ready to play.
But also, I feel like as Method Man, it also helps as far as marketing, because when it comes to casting somebody in a role, they're also like, well, we can also say Method Man's in the movie or Method Man's on the show.
I mean, that would have held a little bit more weight years ago.
I think you played Mac Wild's dad. That's
Yeah, that was dope though. But that's easy, especially being a father. So and Mac is just
from Staten Island.
What can I say? The boy is finesse at his finest. He's a great kid. Well, man now, but I known him as a kid. He's doing his thing, and I applaud him. Another W for Staten Island. Even Tariq.
Yeah.
From,
Power.
Power, yeah.
It's interesting though, because I run across kids all the time that have no idea you were ever a rapper.
Yeah, that's true. A lot of people run up on me because of how high. They definitely run up on me because of how high, but don't get it twisted. Run up on me on the wrong day, boy, you're gonna get the fire. Dial on it. Straight dial on it.
Now, in the Deuce, you're a pimp.
Yeah.
Now, did you have to practice for this role or prepare for this role?
Yeah. Just like you do any role. Yeah. You got to have that
so
kind of dedication. I had to watch I watched some pimp documentaries. I ain't gonna lie.
The Mac. You watch the Mac?
Actually, a pimp called Snooki.
A pimp called Snooki.
I never heard of that one.
And Son has some nice colloquialisms. Is that a good word?
That's a good word.
Okay, that's a good word.
You gotta explain that for me, bro.
Something like he says something like I sell pussy. Everything I own smell like pussy. That's dope to me right there. You ain't gotta say
just call them bars now.
You ain't even gotta say nothing else based off that. But I didn't want to do a caricature of a pimp, especially in the audition, because I would have blew it. And seeing how, especially knowing someone like Don Bishop Magic Juan and how he moved and everything, you don't want to put it in a bad light. Even though, I mean, that's ludicrous in itself to even say something like that, putting pimping in a bad light. But for the guys that live that lifestyle, you want some kind of authenticity that they can look at it and be like, yeah, I'm gonna ride with that, and I'm gonna co-sign that. You know,
it's interesting you say that because you are like a nice pimp on the Deuce. I was watching it. Right?
Nice pimp.
He is. He's like a nice.
He's a caring pimp.
You know, he is. But
that's part of the hook, though.
Even before I saw the show, because when I was reading about it, that it was coming out, I think people have this idea in their head, like, oh my God, this is going to be exploiting women. You have pimps, you have prostitutes, because the show is about how, you know, it's in New York and the pimps and the prostitutes and how that turned into the porn industry, right?
Right.
But then you see it and you understand more. Like there's one scene that I thought was really good where she was getting in the car with somebody who she thought was a cop. She thought she was under arrest.
Right.
And her pimp actually comes and saves her. And anything could have happened to her if her pimp wasn't there because he understood the game of what was going on.
School during the moment, absolutely. But that's all part of it right there. I mean, the best thing a pimp could have is a chick with low self-esteem. And no ambition. Well, she got to have some ambition or else you can't use it. Now, as far as the Deuce goes, I mean, yes, on the outer layer, it's pimps, hoes, porn industry. But when you start peeling those layers apart and start getting into characters, that's why I take my hat off to Maggie Gyllenhaal, because she's like anchoring this show right now. And if she doesn't get an Emmy nod, the Emmys is fake news. Period.
Yeah, she's great. She actually doesn't have a pimp on the show.
All men got a little pimping in them, though. Like, even if you're not an official pimp, I guess some...
Well, we all aspire to have some type, you're right, some type of pimp bones in us. You are absolutely right, especially when approaching women. Every guy wants to be seen as some kind of ladies' man, whereas on the opposite spectrum, the women want to be seen as hard to get and non-approachable at times.
Is this based on a true story? Because I remember 42nd Street used to be...
Yeah, the 70s and 80s in New York.
The 80s in New York.
It is a true story about how that whole industry turned into the porn industry, and women kind of led the way with that.
Yeah, and those twins, the twins that James Franco character plays. I mean, James Franco character. Yeah, just delete that or whatever. Edit that. But the twins that James Franco portrays on the show, they're two actual guys that got into the porn industry. Don't ask me how. I didn't look up the history. I didn't want to know. You know what I'm saying? But yeah.
You think these period pieces are necessary? Or why do you think they're necessary?
Well, for one, you know, in the society we live in now, here we go, society we live in now, especially in the 2000s, since 2000 started, and, you know, we've got all this information at our fingertips. It's nice for the youngins to be able to look back and see where their grandparents came from or where their parents came from and how, you know, we always tell them, this was a struggle, and we had to do this, that, and the third, and they can't picture it because they ain't lived that struggle. I mean, whatever. But this gives them some type of light and perspective on partly of what it was back then, because all those days weren't bad ones. I ain't going to even lie. You know, I grew up in some very broke neighborhoods, very poor. But me as a child being in these environments, I knew we were poor, but we didn't feel poor because everybody around us was in the same situation. There was always love in those communities. That's what people fail to understand. You know, yes, we are living in deplorable conditions at times. And yes, sometimes a parent may be on drugs or a father incarcerated. But when that family unit is strong and that village comes in to help raise those kids, that shit is unstoppable.
And that's the crazy part about social media, because I know some of these kids are still living in those conditions, but you don't ever see that reflected via Instagram or Snapchat.
No, never.
Nothing.
Everybody's hood rich. Yeah. That's for sure. Very rarely.
That's why I liked when Redman did Cribs. And he had them in his house, and it was all, you know, everybody tries to be like...
That was one of his houses,
magnificent.
He
but
probably
it was
owned the complex.
Yeah.
But it was all, everybody else tries to be all glamorous on Cribs, and then Redman brings him in his house.
Well, that's always been Doc. That's why people love Doc. Doc is the anti to the pro. You know what I'm saying? It's, if you going left, Doc going to go right. It's just who he is.
But you always been that way, too, especially with the industry. I think that's why y'all meshed.
Well, not as much, because I if I agree with somebody wholeheartedly, I'm there. You know what I'm saying? I'm not just going to go opposite because I think it's the cool thing to do. Nah, that's never been me. But yeah. I mean, that's why we click so well, because we mesh on a lot of different levels, you know, especially at shows. If you haven't seen a Redman and Method Man show, make it on your bucket list. Come see us. We throw it down.
Even back in the day, you used to rebel against the whole sex symbol status.
Well, you know what? That was because I didn't see any, all I seen was a bottom to that, you know, and I mean, not taking anything away from Christopher Williams. You know, the brother probably. No, I'm just saying though. I'm just saying though, and I seen the pictures and y'all clowned him up here.
The other day too.
Yeah, y'all clowned him up here.
No, he clowned him, said light skin, he's bad and all that.
You aging pretty good. You know what I'm saying? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I'll take it.
And, you know, that whole sex symbol thing, it's like that clock is ticking on, you know, when you're going to just start looking more effed up every day, man. It's just bad. I didn't want to be in that realm. I just wanted to be judged off of my skill. That's the bottom line.
No, that's real. Because I say that with women all the time, too. All these women that's getting paid off their looks and their bodies, like, you're going to age. It's not going to stay that way.
Right. Well, I mean, some women are aging gracefully. There's a few of them out there. They're checking the diets and they're in the gym taking care of their bodies, and I mean,
you look at people like Angela Bassett.
Yeah.
Everybody always brings up Angela.
She looks incredible.
That's good because I think that makes her go even harder in the gym, and I need some of that.
Now you remember the times when Times Square was real messed up because that's the period of this, you know, of the Deuce.
Yeah, and I remember one time. And, you know, I always got a story, but I remember one time I used to work at the Statue of Liberty. Shout out to the Statue of Liberty. Brad Hill, what's good?
You used to work at the Statue of Liberty doing the tours?
What? Doing what tours?
You used to clean up, right?
I was in concessions.
Selling food, okay.
Yeah. But, you know, once you get out of the food part, you get into the outside cleanup and you're sweeping up stuff. I made it all the way to garbage, son. That's when you get to drive the truck around the island. You was Big Cheese. You know what I'm saying? That's the deal right there. Anyway, I'm leaving work. And every time after work, on a payday, if a new movie came out, I forgot what movie I wanted to go see, but I went to the Deuce to go see this movie.
Right.
And right there on the corner of Broadway and 42nd Street, remember there was a theater right there. I think it's WWE now, whatever. And the line was pretty long, so I'm on the back of the line waiting. I got my book bag on. I'm on the back of the line waiting. And something feels funny on my book bag and shit, right? So I look back and I see this little short black, whatever, just, you know, it just didn't look right.
Right.
So I'm standing there again, and I feel something else, and I look back again, and he's just standing there. So I just left the line, and I looked at my bag, and it was halfway open. Nigga was trying to rob me, G.
Wow.
Trying to rob me, man. You know what I mean? It was my little check. I only had like $68, but it was mine.
You know you had money in your bag?
No, he was just going in my bag. You got to be an idiot. Like, this is why New York is so ill, and, like, you learn so much by experience. You got to be an idiot to be standing on a line outside with your book bag on your back exposed, where somebody could just come behind you, open that chick, take your stuff, and chew. You know what I'm saying? I mean,
but that's
these
not
are valuable
normal, though. That's
but
New
that
York.
was 42nd Street.
It's normal for New York.
You know what?
That was 42nd Street back then.
Yeah, let's say that.
You seen everything on 42nd Street. There was prostitution on 42nd Street. There was, you didn't go. My mom would, you wanted to go, all the kids and teens wanted to go, but your moms and pops did not want you to go on 42nd Street.
So Giuliani did a good job cleaning it up, right?
Well, I don't think Julie. Well, yeah.
He cleaned that up.
Yeah.
It used to be scary to be over there.
Yeah,
it
nothing like now.
Scary.
It was not a tourist spot.
But as far as crime and stuff like that in New York, and Giuliani took a lot of credit for that. I think a lot of that had to do with the Million Man March and us being consciously aware of what we were doing to each other and stuff. And everybody took a chill and sat back and thought about things for a minute, you know?
Salute to the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Always.
Now, I want to ask the three of you a question after watching The Deuce. There's one scene where a kid loses his virginity to a prostitute. Right. How common is something like that?
It's funny you brought that up. You know when I lost my virginity? I tell the story all the time.
To a stripper.
No, I didn't lose it to a stripper. I lost my virginity to a young lady, but I used to go to her house every day after school, so it was around like 3 o'clock, 3:30, and Method Man Bring the Pain video used to always be on.
And you was bringing the pain?
I'm dead serious. I'm dead serious.
Nice.
Rap City used to be on, and after the first time I ever seen Bring the Pain video, I was.
Well, that's a nice romantic song to lose your virginity.
Me and my wife, our wedding song was All I Need, the remix.
Nice.
That's a fact. That's that first song we danced to.
Gabrielle Union and Dwayne Wade played it at their wedding, too. I don't know if it was their dance song, but she told me they played it there. That's good.
Classic number one hip-hop R&B love song ever.
Dope. But back to The Deuce. I think a lot of people had their first experience with professionals, you know. A lot of people, yeah. Kind of like a rite of passage. I don't think they have to do that now. Everybody just so fast living now.
You just got to send a DM.
Everybody.
Right.
Yeah, I don't like it, to be honest with you. I did that with a stripper one time, and like I walked into the champagne room.
You came in the stripper?
Wow.
I came in the champagne room in the middle of the dance, so I gave her $20. So I was halfway through the song, and she started topping me off, but she had to stop when the song was over. And I was like, why you stop? And she was like, you got to give me some more money.
Wow, that's the hook.
And
right
I was like,
there.
nah.
That's kind of what happened on The Deuce because it was his first time.
She probably did it on purpose. You never know. And David Simon and George, don't get me, and George,